following the CDC's guidelines, the U.S. CDC guidelines for development. So the United States of America has government associations for almost every division, from roads to postal service and treasury, and they do have Center for Disease Controls, but the Center for Disease Controls also establishes what is used for development. And I wanted to take a moment because sometimes when I comment, the defense of a parent, and I don't mean defense like, I'm talking about you're trying to figure out what the development is for your child, right? And they're like, well, the CDC says my child's right on track. First of all, if you honestly look at the CDC guidelines, and I'll put the link on it, it's even on my website. If you look at the CDC guidelines, it's not even a complete sentence. Rolls from belly to back. What? You know what I mean? And so we talk, just like I'm talking to you now, or I talk to Claudia, or I talk to Philippe, whatever. We all have different comprehensions of the verbal command. We hear what we want to hear. So the less that they put on it, if this is put out by the government, if I handed in this kind of assignment in high school, I probably would have gotten a D-, right? It is the most unintelligent collection of infant development I've ever seen in my life. And this is what parents have to go off of. When a parent is looking at that, and you might say, oh, Michelle, I'm with it in UK or Canada, I don't have to worry about that. If you don't think we don't set precedents around the world as far as that's concerned, you're going to be concerned in 6 months. And so also one of the worst things that I look at with the CDC guidelines is they're recommending that babies don't get looked at for development until 9 months of age. Parents assume that a pediatrician knows everything, and they do. About infectious disease and cuts and bruises and neurology. But about infant development, it really is the standard practice that most babies turn out okay. It's the exception that turns into special needs. And I don't know if you're following the stats, but this is changing quite rapidly, which 1/3 of our children or more are going into special services. Autism went from 1 in 3,000 when I was around, and now it's 1 in 29. And they say, oh, it's because there's better evaluation. I can tell you this right now, as a movement expert, and I'm someone who's now 59 years old, I can go back and think of anyone I went through in high school and grade school, and I'm not going, oh, George should have been, diagnosed with autism. And if I'm saying one name, I'm not saying half my class. And it's really changed. There was no special needs classes when I was in school. I know Paul's sister jumped into the lake and cracked her neck, and there was someone else's sister who had cerebral palsy. And then Eddie had special needs. It just, what's going on. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do another live because someone's making a comment, or not someone. When I say someone, I mean as a collective. Why does Michelle always look for vision? Because every developmental milestone also synchronizes up the vision. And I'm seeing more and more, too, the separation of the vision from the development. One of the things that they learn in cognitive vision, one of my courses, is, again, how tummy time, this sets up with the vision. Rolling over, this sets up with the vision. Like visual arcs sets up when you're coming to sitting through their back. So when your child's army crawling and not coming to sitting through their back, they're not going into the visual arcs. It'll make it much harder for them to throw a ball, for reading and writing, riding a bicycle. All those things come into play because you didn't come to sitting through your back. And so when you're looking at the CDC guidelines, first thing you have to ask yourself, do you know that everything went okay? And did you evaluate your child? So here you have the newborn movement assessment. The CDC guidelines are for best case perfect scenarios. They've dumbed it down a little bit, right, about what your baby should be doing. And what do I mean by dumbing down? At 2, your child should be able to see 20 feet. At 2, they should see an airplane, not 20 feet, right? 20 feet should happen way before that when they're going into tracking versus following. But when you're looking at that, did you have any kind of trauma that you knew of, right? And the answer still might be no, and you still had trauma of genetics or stroke in utero or things like that, arthrogryposis. You have to start looking at the scale. And that's the one thing that I'm working on now is a whole deviation scale of going into development. And because I really came across that doing my reflex course and stuff to start looking at that. Did you have an oops you know, or are you at like, oh, we might have a problem here because you had a couple of days in the NICU. Over 2 days, you should be in some kind of special services, not waiting to see. I see this all the time, even from the group. We're not sure if we have cerebral palsy yet. You have cerebral palsy. It happened. It's the severity of it that you don't know about it. But again, you're going off these guidelines. So you're looking at like oh, we're in trouble. Act like you do. If certain words are coming out of your mouth, like I say, when people say, I'm not sure if I should go to the hospital or not. If the word hospital is coming out of your mouth, the door is that way and you're going, right? That's how you have to look at it. So if you have concerns of development issues like CP or autism, start working today. Don't wait for that diagnosis, right? Because now you've got a disparity. And don't think that someone is going to come out on your professional team and say, oh, not only do you have this, this is your plan for your child. We've evaluated vision. Who's doing that? We've evaluated the fine and gross motor skills. Who's doing that? That's what we do here. And that's what we're trying to offer you. Please, guys, there's a lot of information out there. Have they actually looked at your child, and does it include like a video or some kind of thing showing your child moving, or an in-person evaluation? And if those things haven't existed, if you're just giving MRI reports and EEGs, you're really going to go down the wrong rabbit hole. Or the chances are very high that you will. I'm not trying to don't listen to these people. You need a medical team, you need a professional team, you know, but you also need a development team. But you still have to be doing what's in the best interest for you, your child, and your family. That being said, I've got a lot of videos to catch up on, so let's go at it. And please, folks, as new parents, just ask, is my baby doing okay? And if you're not getting the answers from that team and so forth, and my team, you know, then you need to coordinate all of that. But that's what people are doing here. But I can't stress enough is development continues until the day we die. So again, this site is not just for people that are new here. If you have questions about your child's development or the way that you're moving, please, you know, ask it here. You know, be a part of the group, but get the most out of it for you. Thanks.